And welcome back to the Wallace Branch. It's now just after 11:30 game time of day one. This playthrough intended to be simply an endless session, but organized around the tasks that could be completed in around 4 or 5 days, representing roughly a week's worth of activity on the layout from roughly 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And right now what we're seeing on screen, GP38-2, operated by our friend Woody Harrelson. And if you may remember in the last session, we sent Woody Harrelson into Smelterville, but shortly after the session ended, I realized that was a mistake because he's leaving all his cabooses and some other cars behind him. I'm going to start with our progress report. Pull that up on screen here. You can see in the last hour we made a lot of ore pickups. We made the salmon pickup, the paper pickup. So now we have war tasks marked as done and then 6 underway. And from the beginning of my doing this spreadsheet-based session, I've had trouble deciding when to mark a task as done. Because if you pick up a good, is that done? My current rule is yes, mark it as done, but in reality, the goods need to get delivered. And for our purposes, that means usually taking it to the next industry or off the map. And like for that salmon, it's an urgent task. So I actually don't mark that task as done for the purposes of completing the urgent tasks until it's actually taken off the map or delivered to where it needs to go. But for some industries, like when ore is picked up and then it needs to be delivered to the smelter, that's sort of neatly divided into 2 separate tasks anyway, so the second is done when it reaches the smelter. Even there, it's more complex to count because if the smelter needs like 88 tasks, 88 loads this session, it's obviously not done if a single load of cars gets delivered, like 2 cars from the mammoth mine that we have right now. So in conclusion, treat this list as just indicative of progress, and we always know it's just not a linear progression anyway. It's not like a progress bar on their computer. Not that those are necessarily linear either. All right, let's head. Woody Harrelson is driving to Smelterville, Maine. And let's cancel this. And let's continue schedule. Okay, so here we are with Tasha Yar, and Tasha Yar has our sand train, empty train right now, but all these cars need to be loaded up at the sand pit, which you can see behind us in the distance. So, yeah, just to review, get back on what I was saying before I got so rudely interrupted. 46 tasks in total, but that's going to go up tomorrow by the number of new urgent tasks that's going to get added. And I won't be subtracting anything that was marked as done until the end of the week-long quote-unquote session. As for the list of tasks that we're working on, that is basically unchanged. I think I'm not going to throw that up just yet. Except now that we can start on more of the UP ore loads. We did make progress on a lot of those items, and we're going to make a lot more progress this time. The first thing that we're working on, sand train, Tasha Yar, I already mentioned, needs to pick up sand and then get out of the way. So that UP local can bring its train. They kind of got stuck working the Pinehurst paper mill for the last week's episode. And also, one thing that I realized a little bit too recently is that we need one of the UP consists to leave the map and go out and pick up some of our loads for the urgent tasks that need to get done. My intention always would be to organize things very carefully so the locals leaving the map are taking some cars with them. And we do have some loaded boxcars in Pinehurst that can go. I would be tempted, and I was very tempted to go get the scrap loads as well. But I don't want to hold up progress too much because we really need to get those additional cars handled PDQ. I'm talking about the fruit and general goods for Mullen. In this case, it's kind of funny that Mullen needs fruit and general goods. It comes from Washington State in reefers, and then it needs to have general goods, which are picked up in boxcars. We currently have only one empty boxcar to use for that right now, but that's pretty unusual on this route where we just wouldn't have any empty boxcars. But we do have some boxcars with paper that's going to Mullen anyways, so that's probably going to be our solution. We're still going to need more boxcars eventually, so we might as well bring in a bunch when we bring in the fruit reefers. The edge of the map is at milepost 60 on the UP side, so I calculate it's actually 43 miles to Plummer from Cataldo. So we're going to need roughly 2 to 3 hours before the local can even get back here onto the map. We see the two trains are face to face briefly. Anyway, usually that sort of process would happen overnight, not during the middle of the day, but I should have really brought all the urgent car loads onto the map in the morning local, but I just didn't do that. So that's the problem. It's always nice when you have two trains visible. It's not so nice when they're face-to-face. AI is pushing them together like that. That's not what you'd like to see, I don't think. Incidentally, I had fixed all the roads so that the crossing gates and the traffic were working. Just not sure why they're not working for the moment. I had noticed that earlier. Actually, I think it's on the first session that we played. I noticed that, but now Tasha Yar passed the signal at danger, but that's, I think, because we're basically backing up. The signals don't like it when you back through them. Now, it's a fairly long track here. There's no runaround, but there's a fairly long track, and I think we probably will end up being able to get most of this train filled here. And one of the things that did happen is that I sent too few cars. I didn't realize that we actually have to fill 18 cars here, not 15. So we could have gotten rid of some more hoppers from Wallace, but we didn't. I think I'm just going to spot this one car there. We'll see. It's already loading. Amazing. Okay, good. So we are here, and as I was saying, really need to get so how to handle this. I think what we want to do is, first of all, pull directly up to the switch so that it'll be easier to sort the cars. Actually, I'm revising my opinion here. I think what we actually want to do is just to take a caboose with us. One caboose. And that will be it. I wish there was a keyboard shortcut to do the car tagger, but some Z fighting on this model. I don't know if that's due to an error or due to a bug. Doesn't seem to be visible except when you're in close. It's not my model. I suspect the sand train is starting to get ready for the next load. I think the way that I have it done is for these to be sort of like a 1 minute. And we are not going to worry too much about this train if we end up getting distracted by other things. It's more like we're here. We might as well have a look. Smelterville Airport, Shoshone County Airport, I should say, behind us. But whenever I'm over here, I always take a look to see if we can spot our little Cessna. False alarm on that grade crossing horn, obviously. It's a little bit hard to see. Okay, pretty sure we're ready for the next car here. Indeed. Now, I don't think it can do 2 cars at once, so I'm just going to pull in where I think the next car is. Should be about there. Okay, it's our second time alerting this particular intersection that we're coming through. And all we need to do is we need to rush over, and as quickly as we can, pick up those paper cars at Pinehurst and then head off the map. And another thing that I need to remember to do this session is get rid of the driver. One of my little session good practices is to, whenever possible, make the driver get off the train before leaving the map. Because once you leave the map, the driver that's on the train disappears from your little driver list, and then you can only add back drivers that are like sort of their default names, unless you restart the driver rule, which I don't want to do. So I'm going to leave him there and come back, check out where are we at in terms of loading these cars. It's looking very good. And again, I'm not going to tend this train very much this session, other than while we're in the immediate vicinity. It's more of a target of opportunity. Now we can definitely confirm that Donald Sutherland is not there. Donald Sutherland is our pilot. I don't see our engineer in there. I don't know if Frederick Remington does not have a 3D model, or if these locomotives just don't have a driver attachment. Most likely the second of those two possibilities is the case. Now you can see pretty much how far it is between Smelterville and Pinehurst. But yeah, 11:47. So if you figure we are going to be off the map at 12, figure 2 o'clock, 2:30, Frederick Remington will be able to return from Plummer with the cars that we need to complete our urgent tasks. And from there, we'll basically be sending him directly to Mullen. Just passing the little Pinehurst Y track. But we need to go in the Y the other direction. Alcinor says, "Good morning, Sir Tries, mods, and chat." Well, welcome indeed, and thank you for joining. Hope everything is going well on your side as well. Yeah, leaving the caboose on the main line. Let's... Yeah, I think he probably would have gone anyway, but I'm not entirely sure. Well, no, I think they should have stopped. So something is bugging out about all my intersections that were working so beautifully before. Okay, I'm not going to watch. It's too inhumane to watch. And here are our cars. Everything should be lined up already. It is indeed. Alcinora says, it's good. It's going as good as it can be, considering I just crawled out of bed. Good morning and happy weekend. Happy Saturday. Everything is going swimmingly here as well. As I mentioned, nothing really on the agenda, nothing serious on the agenda for this weekend other than doing some trains. Oh, it's totally speeding here. Yeah, in the last session I mentioned that I didn't bother to label any of the signals. So the signals just all have the random number, seemingly random number that they're assigned with when the route was created. And that situation that we just encountered with the runaway consist, that is something that could be partially addressed by having the signals named correctly, because the only way you know about these runaway consists is either you see the derailment, or you see the little message saying such and such consist has passed signal at danger. You know, obviously if it's just a consist with no engineer, you know that's a runaway consist. So if the signals actually had a name that was meaningful, that could be helpful. Elsinore says, speeding? Shame, shame. Yes, fortunately, there is no penalty in the game. In the way that I'm playing, no penalty for speeding. Now, I will actually record it as a rules violation when there's some really serious issue. So, for example, a derailment that I caused, that would be put down as a derailment, and I will keep track of how many derailments we have over time and what the causes of those derailments were. Almost always the cause of derailments on the route are my own inattention. That is to say, operating two trains at once and then forgetting that one of them is under user control. Or related to that is when you didn't forget, but you merely completely misestimated the amount of time that went by, or how fast the train was going, just related. Interesting that horn was really well done for this speed of train, and perhaps I just anticipated that the speed limit would generally be lower there. Yeah, 25, but we were shown as being 35 before. Alcinora says, inattentive? Say it isn't so. How could you? So far, this playthrough, I have not. So let's just wait until it actually happens. Okay, now fulfilling my promise, we're going to have you get off the train. Totally not prototypical that the engineer just gets off randomly in the middle of nowhere. Okay, well, it doesn't really matter who we assign, but I generally assign Smiley or Waza. So Waza, now you are as my indicator of a train that's heading off the map. So navigate to Plumber, Portal Plumber. Good. So that is done, and once again, since we are over here, but we're not going to be over here for very much longer, just going to head back to Sand Track. Alcinor says, sorry I have a broken sense of humor. No worries. All good. Okay. Okay, so now this is Eric Rodman, and Eric Rodman is just going to drive back to Mullen now that the salmon has been picked up. Drive to Mullen. Mullen NP track 2. And after that exciting move, we're going to go straight back to the other side of the map where we should have both Hank Williams and, gosh, where's the other NP? So this will become our new local. And our new local, as probably will not be a huge surprise, just has to take those fish over to Missoula. And because that's such a small train, we wouldn't ordinarily need any kind of like helper. But in this case, we actually do need a helper. The reason is that there are no helpers over on the other side of the pass, and for this playthrough, it doesn't look like we're going to need a helper very often to go from Wallace to Saltese. So in order to get through this track, why don't we have our switch engine just link all these cars up with on the second NP track. Each railroad has, 3 or 4 tracks. So UP has 4 tracks, NP has kind of 3 or 4. So let's take our little SW 1200. We'll just scrunch it in there. It'll be a little bit awkward with the caboose. In the middle? But yeah, we have a fair amount of shuffling of trains to do here. Okay, operating the wrong engine. So yes, in order for us to get the local on the move, in order for us to take those cars over the pass, we need to get one of these Z3s into the roundhouse for servicing so that we can clear the track for the turntable and then turn the other one around so that it can be our helper on the other way out over the pass. Does not slow down very quickly, does he? It's not quite enough horsepower. I did actually use, I think, a SW 1200 engine spec, so that might be actually reflecting realistic situation there. All right, let's grab you. Gosh, keep going the wrong direction here. Frederick Remington. Now, one of the things that I wanted, the reason why I have all these names of the engineers, not only are they named after usually fictional or actors' names, but it's also, I picked the name of the engineer that's a vanilla engineer and just kind of made them a little bit more memorable by adding a last name. But the reason why I did that is that I wanted to sort of easily be able to, when I have to restart all the session rules, assign the same drivers to the same trains. This having them be more memorable makes it a little bit easier, even though I do have it in the spreadsheet. But sometimes, as you saw, I do have an engineer drop off a train. So knowing which ones I had before helps. And I would like to be able to do it so that all of their heads were unique. So I didn't have this guy's head with the little trains logo on his peaked cap. But sometimes they do seem to have like random generation of which head is assigned to which person. It's really mysterious to me. Try to be very careful here. So this is our helper. Okay, let's decouple here. Okay, so question from Alcinor. On a modern coal drag with distributed power, how do they break the power out of the middle on arrival? I assume they do not leave them in the consist. I really do not know. I have no idea, honestly. If they're all going to the same destination, I would assume that there would be multiple tracks there where they could sort the cars into waiting tracks or unloading tracks. I mean, if the whole train is going to a single destination is what I'm talking about, which seems to be also what you're talking about. Well, this is going to be the most overpowered caboose hop. In my spreadsheet, I do have the horsepower to enable us to figure out whether the tonnage is correct, but there is just no question. We are overpowered. All right, now happily we can take this on to Mullen. Mullen, Maine. Okay, that looks good. So this is the locomotive that needs to get into our service track, and namely into the roundhouse. And all the roundhouse doors are empty, but let's put them in number 1, because why not? Now I do realize this caboose should not be sitting here on this track. But that's something for another day, I think. Okay, we slightly overshot that. Okay, so how about we go to open bay door 2. Okay, why did I go forward to, why did I back up too much? It is a mystery. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get onto that track. I think we are going to be able to. Let's just see. I like how the smoke is sort of going sideways, reflecting our motion. Okay, is that the right one? It is. Okay. Okay, so this is a rather older engine, so for that reason it will be serviced for 3 days. So we won't be seeing that one soon. Ooh, look, the smoke is almost perfectly coming out that little smokestack. Okay, let's save this. Do we have plenty of space? We do have plenty of space. Okay, so what's next on the menu? And I believe the answer is that we actually have the ability to bring this UP consist here which interestingly has a caboose. I was so worried about cabooses. And he's just sitting over here not being used at all. I think this is maybe the only train. Well, Jessica Rabbit over there. Can't quite see her, but she's down there in the valley. This unit, this consist, can go pick up some of those cars that should have been brought into town. Okay. Yeah, let's just go that way. It's a beautiful sight. And yeah, as to the DPU question, yeah, I totally understand, and I realize that's what you were getting at, which is, do coal plants have a bunch of train crews hanging out to move consists? And my guess is absolutely not, that they would not be allowed to. You'd have to have fully qualified engineers, have to be union members, probably, and then in addition, the railroad wouldn't want private industry having people operating their equipment. So unless they own the equipment themselves, or unusual arrangement with the railroad contractually, I don't imagine that there would be any staff at the coal plant to do that. And I also think that for a really large coal plant, they would have plenty of tracks. Or else they wouldn't have a DPU sent to a single track coal plant. That just wouldn't make sense. But I'm no expert on DPUs. I should learn more about them because I've been very curious about them as well. It's obviously a fairly recent phenomenon, and most of what I know about railroads is stuff I learned when I was a kid, which has changed since then. Not that I'm some expert on railroads or anything. In my hometown, Missoula, Montana, there is a steam locomotive which is undergoing repairs. It's a multi-year project, and it's actually been multiple years leading up to the actual initiation of the project. The city of Missoula is not able to repair this display locomotive, which is out in front of the old Northern Pacific Depot in Missoula. And so the woman who is leading the effort to restore this locomotive, the 1356, it's been on display since it retired from the Wallace Branch in the 1950s. I believe it might have even been the last steam train to operate on the Wallace Branch. Oh, shoot. Talking too much. So a lot of the research that I did for this route, I used some photos of Ron Nixon. And Ron Nixon is no longer with us, but his daughter is leading the effort to restore this locomotive in Missoula, and she put out an email message saying that, you know, they've raised funds. They're starting the restoration. They have a 401(c). All right. Let's go pick up this train. Alciner says, "Oh, I love Missoula. I used to stop at Maralt's every time I went through." Very cool. I guess we're not doing the horn here because we're backing up, so it didn't register. Okay, we are actually at 1 hour and 3 minutes now. There was a certain amount of time was wasted at the beginning, so I'll take it up to an hour and 15. I was just thinking, we haven't been as productive this session as normally, or as last time. Okay, so if we put it this way, will we get the horn? I'm going to say no. Okay, now quickly, you are going to go to Wallace. It is allowed for us to take the RS3 over the pass. That is possible. However, this time I don't think there's any particular need to do that, so I'm not going to. This is Mullen, Idaho. Welcome to Mullen, Idaho. The Outlaw Bar and Grill. Put the RS3 a little bit out of the way here. That should be clear. And then, do we have our train coming in? I see it. It's hiding. It's hiding from me. Where is it? I could have made it purely a power move and not even done the caboose hop, because this train already has a caboose, so... That can be our screenshot for the episode, I think. Okay, keep going. Just a little bit further, then we can drop the caboose. That would be a nice screenshot too, but it's a little bit small. A little bit small on the distant locomotives. Citizens of Mullen enjoying the sight of Northern Pacific Power. Everybody in town knows this must be headed over Lookout Pass. Probably would be an excellent place for us to pick up water, but we don't need to pick up water with this particular locomotive, so we're not going to. Milepost 122. Okay, now remember to get off the train. Yes, okay. And get off the train. Very good. So now we want to get Smiley. And Smiley, you are going to get on the train. Autopilot 2. NP portal. And I think it is important that this little consist of boxcars should be progressing. If for no other reason than we're currently blocking the track. Okay, let's just back her up so we can get 3 more cars onto the loading platform. Well, there's the music, so as you probably guessed, that's all the time we have for today. Hope you enjoyed yourself, and we'll see you again next time on the Wallace Branch.